Hey there, welcome to What Dogs Really Want, a podcast where we ditch some old school myths and explore what our dogs need to thrive in the modern world. We are your hosts. There's Maren,
Hello.
Alana,
Hello.
and me. I'm Stefanie. And each week we're going to talk about canine behavior looking through the lens of pathology, enrichment, and empathy. Whether you're a dog pro or just in love with your dog, I think you're in the right place. We're also
I
in the right
think we're
place,
in the
but
right place.
I think we're in the right
you're
place.
also in the right place.
Where are we?
Good question.
Anyway, this week.
Sorry. We digress.
So, last episode, if you listened to last episode, we talked a lot about why breed matters, why breed labeling and breed knowledge is important. And so, this week, and probably the following 2 to 3 episodes after this, we're going to be diving into the specific breed groups, the 10 main breed groups that we tried to list last episode. And we're going to be doing a little deep dive into each group to tell you about characteristics that they might have, what they were originally bred for, all that good stuff. So you can get a little bit better insight into your dog and the dogs around you.
Is that a toy dog I see?
It is. So are you going to start us off with today we're going to be looking at herding dog, world dog, and if we have time, toy dog. And we're kicking it off with herding dogs, yeah?
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so I'm going to take the lead on this one, seeing as I'm a big fan of herding dogs, but I also appreciate that they are not for everyone and they can be very complicated. Um, so let's talk about their history a little bit and what they were originally bred for, because I think that's important for all the breed groups to give you some perspective on why you might see the behaviors that you see. Um, so once livestock became domesticated, humans needed help protecting and moving the groups of animals that they had. And so guardians were given the job of protecting, but they still needed dogs to have that motivation to move the herds. So, excuse me. So they had to come up with dogs that would stalk, chase, and corner prey, but also not bite and injure, because that would sort of defeat the purpose if they killed the sheep after moving them around. So they also had to be athletic, they had to be responsive to humans, and be able to work outside in all kinds of conditions and terrain. So right away, you kind of get a picture of how tough and resilient these dogs had to be and still are. So as the first herding breeds were developed, these dogs were selectively bred then to move various types of livestock. Some had to drive herds from one location to another, others needed to organize the flocks. Sensitive dogs would be selected to work with the sheep, while the more tenacious, tough dogs would work with cattle. So it's pretty crazy and diverse, and amazing to me that back in the day, these people probably weren't geneticists, but they were able to pick the dogs that did exactly what they needed and then breed and create these individual breeds, now known as the herding breeds. And then eventually they evolved into being human movers, and that's where you have your military and your police herding dogs. All right. So, knowing how and why the herding dogs were created and so selectively bred for specialized jobs, it's not really a surprise that so many of them struggle in a modern day society. They clearly don't have their original jobs. There's all the noise, there's all fast moving objects around here coming out of nowhere, having a human that's gone instead of working alongside of them all day. A lot of them live in confinement. They have to live with other animals that might trigger their prey drive. It's a lot for them. So these guys, they were bred to work and to think and to do it very well. So if you're going to have a herding dog in your life, you have to be prepared to always be on your toes. You have to be a competent partner for them and work with these guys, not against them. They need a lot to do. And by a lot to do, I don't mean long walks several times a day. That's good. But they also need opportunities to think, to problem solve. Most of these guys like to chase, do body work. They're probably not going to be good couch potatoes or be happy living in an apartment or a small house without a yard. You can make that work, but I think you definitely have to give them outlets, opportunities to run, dig, chase, have some freedom. So we get a lot of calls, and as soon as a person starts telling us the problems that they're having with their dogs, yeah, my dog barks at all the dogs, all the cars, all the kids in the neighborhood. They bark out the window all the time. They terrorize my cat. They nip at the kids. We always share calls and inquiries, and it's like, it's a herding dog. And then we make the call, and like, so what kind of a dog do you have, or what mix do you have? And inevitably, they're herding dogs. These dogs are often very noise sensitive. So you have a lot of the dogs that are fearful of thunderstorms and fireworks or construction. So these are all things to consider when bringing a herding dog into your life. And it doesn't mean you can't have one and have one successfully, but understand the challenges for them. They're not trying to be defiant or bad or troublesome or piss you off or be a jerk and all these things. They're struggling. The modern day world is not meant for cattle dogs. So you really have to give them jobs to do. And these are my favorite dogs to work with because you can tap into their desire to work. And we have quite a few herding dogs at the What Dogs Want Academy. And they like the flirt poles and they like the lure coursing. And sometimes they like to herd balls around the yard, but they also just really like to sit on the floor with you and do problem solving games and digging games and things that just lets them have some autonomy, figure things out with their partner right next to them. And that's what I find really fun because with a herding dog, I feel like you are really in it together. Anybody want to jump in?
Maren's hand is raised.
Yes, my hand is raised. I was gonna
Fair.
say, yeah, I just have a couple of points about herding dogs that kind of just are going off of what you were saying. How, like, it doesn't mean you can't have a herding dog and have it successfully, but you need to think about these things and be prepared to do it right. And I think the problem, not the problem, but a lot of herding dog people who get herding dogs for the first time specifically, they see them and they think this dog is so smart. And they think that the dog being smart means that they'll just come pre programmed to be well behaved and know how to handle themselves and know how to entertain themselves and know how to calm themselves. But in reality, when you have such a smart dog like that, you need to harness that and you need to give them opportunities to use that intelligence and use that brain. Otherwise, like, they will take care of it themselves, but not in the way you want them to. And I think that's where a lot of they're eating my couch, they're terrorizing my cat, they're biting my neighbor's kids. That's where it comes from. It's like, yeah, your dog is smart and you're not giving them anything to do. So they're going to find something to do themselves. So I just wanted to say that, like, people, I think a lot of the times assume that a smart dog means a well behaved dog, but
Hmm.
it's not necessarily hand in hand if you're not giving them the proper environment to harness that brain power.
You're spot on. I agree with that 100%. 100%.
And then I also just wanted to say, I love herding dogs because, like you were saying, like, it's when you have that bond with a herding dog, it just feels so special because you have, like, I always say this, like, herding dogs are like one of my favorites because, you have like your labs, your golden retrievers, your pitties, like, who are lovely and I adore them, but they'll be best friends with anyone who walks through that door. Like, you just have to give them an ounce of attention. You don't even have to give them attention and they'll still be your best friend. But a herding dog, it's like you really have to work and like prove that you're worthy of that relationship.
Yeah.
So to me, whenever I have cultivated like that relationship and that trust with a herding dog, it just like it's like I'm walking on sunshine. I don't know. Like it's so like
You've
it's
done
so
something right.
yeah, it just feels so like wow, I really like deserve this. Like I've done everything right to like make this dog want to be my friend. Like it's
Yeah.
very it's just like a cool feeling, I feel like. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's something specific to herding dogs in particular.
I think so too, because they're so sensitive. They're bred to be hyper aware and hypersensitive. So like when you earn their trust and they're not like on edge around you, it's like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, you connected with a real dog on
Mhm.
their level, because you have to be willing to meet herding dogs halfway. I think if you try to get rough with them, punish them, it, I can't think of an instance where that works. You definitely have to find a way to communicate and just find that middle ground. You have to meet them where they are. And to circle back to the sensitivity too, um, to go back to what they are bred for, they had to be so in tune with the person that they were working with, the slightest movement and hearing a whistle from a mile away, and so plugged in. So they are super sensitive to your feelings, which is also why it's so detrimental for your relationship with them if you punish or, I'm going to say it, shock and use any
Boot
kind of,
camp.
yeah, that doesn't make sense to them. Um, and the overstimulation with all the noise because of their sensitivities and the modern world, it's really tough for them. I find that they really struggle, and people are so shocked by it, but when you explain it, people tend to understand. It makes a lot of sense. It's almost like having like those hypersensitive people where the lights and the noises, they're like, a lot of them are like that, where everything is like up here because they have to be. Well, they were bred to be so observant and so sensitive, and you had to know every little thing that was coming out of every corner, that one sheep out of the 350 that steps out of line.
And
So
it's like
think about how that translates.
you were saying like no like hearing a whistle from a mile away, but then beyond that, like the difference in like the slightest difference in the whistle means
Yeah.
something different. Like go left, go right, come here. Like when we went to Dublin, we went to that working cattle farm and we saw a border collie named Maggie. And
Shout out to
the
Maggie.
farmer, what was the farmer's
Winners.
name?
Michael.
Farmer Michael. He did a little demonstration
Shout
of
out Michael.
Michael or of Maggie herding the sheep. And it was so impressive how he had these whistles, and I assume they're similar for most farmers. But like a whistle that went up meant go to the left, a whistle that went down meant go to the right, a whistle that was like up then down or whatever meant come back. Like, and she took no time to process. Like as soon as she heard it, she just knew exactly what to do. So it's like they're so tuned in and locked in to the slightest variable. And yes, she's a farm dog, but the same genetics in her are in the border collie that lives in Scottsdale in a high rise.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we said, there's a spectrum because it was interesting to talk to him after the demonstration. Is he said that he's the trainer for herding dogs in that area, and people will bring them their border collies and such. And he said you can tell within a few minutes if the dog really has what it takes to herd.
Mhm.
And he said sometimes we have to reject them. They should be pets because they don't have that tenacity. When we were there, it was freezing cold. It was raining really hard, mud everywhere. And Maggie was out there and she was drenched and she didn't care. Like she never lost her
She
focus
loved
from
it.
the sheep. And it was crazy. She could single out one sheep and then they were kind of like stamping their feet at her. And you can't be afraid of that. So it takes a very special kind of dog. And so we were talking about having an exchange program because, like, we see these people
Yeah.
who get these working line border collies and they're not happy living in your house when you're gone all day and you don't let them dig. So I said, we should work out something where we'll take your failed pet dogs and we'll send you the high drive dogs, and it'd be a much happier. thing. Yes.
Just that just reminded me before I don't want to forget it, but you were saying like how the sheep were like stamping their feet at her, and like the certain type of dog has to be able to like take that and show that they're in charge and like, no, I'm gonna move you anyway, like you don't intimidate me. And it's like you see those videos of like the cattle dogs getting like flipped in the air
Mhm.
by a cow,
Yeah.
and they just go right back into, like, they're not phased in the slightest. It is so cool. We should post when we advertise this episode. I'll find a video to like post, but it's so cool. Like they're so tough, and like, you might see that and be like, oh, poor dog, like they shouldn't be doing that, but like like that's their job, like they love it, like they do not care, like they're going right back, like they're so, it takes such a tough dog. And then like obviously those are the dogs who are going to reproduce, and so it's just going to like, that's the genetics of it. Like it's really cool to see like those videos and stuff. So I didn't want to forget that.
No,
No,
that
it's
is really
true. When you
cool. see
see those, it's just like you need to, if you're considering getting a herding dog in your life, you need to look for those. Like, let me see what herding dogs actually do, or watch Mustard Dogs is an
Mm.
incredible series.
Yeah.
They did a whole season on Kelpies, and then they did Border Collies, and I heard that Australian Shepherds are the next season, and it's incredible to see these dogs work, and their people love them. I was a little hesitant to watch the first because I thought I don't want to see all these dogs just be kept outside and just treated as whatever, which I can appreciate it, but I didn't know if I could handle it. But they love those dogs so much, and they have the best life, and they're so happy, and they try to fit the dog with the right farm based on what kind of animals are on the farm, and it's just mind-blowing. It gives you a whole new appreciation for that whole group of dogs.
Yeah,
That's
It's
and
a
with
cool show.
ah
yeah, I with that show is cool too, because it's like they gave them like, they gave the puppies to the different ranchers or farmers, and then like they had little checkpoints that they were meant to reach to like
Mhm.
see if that dog would be successful in being like a farm dog. And it's like they would have to reach these like basically like milestones by each time, like can they hop on the back of your Jeep and just stuff like that. And like it's just
Mhm.
really interesting, like all these things like that they should be able to do by this certain time to be able to determine, are they cut out for this? Are they gonna make it? And stuff like that. It's just it's really interesting, like that life.
yeah.
And watching
Ah,
their relationship build over time too is so fun to see them, like, connect or, like, have trouble connecting and then, like, they work it out. It's so
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, because
yeah.
it's such a relationship, like, yeah, because like
Mhm.
you said, like, they have trouble connecting and then they work it out, like, mutually. Like, they, like,
Yeah.
to, like they learn to, like each other because it's such
Yeah.
a mutual relationship between the dog and the human, because 'cause they're on such, like, a similar
Bless you.
wavelength, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have
On
to
Kim
be.
Brophy. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I was just saying they have to be on the same wavelength.
Um, yeah, in Kim Brophy's book, she calls the herding breed group the working wingman, and that is the perfect thing. And that's another thing. If you have a herding dog in your life, you probably notice they're always with you, and they always want to be a part of everything. Whether you're sweeping, doing laundry, outside doing chores, they're there, and they're like, "What are we doing now? What are we doing now?" And so that's one of the ways to help enrich their lives is let them be a part of that. Even if you're just like, "All right, now we're just going to take the laundry into this room. Thank you. Thanks for coming with me," and maybe have something for them to do, but they really want to be a part of whatever's going on. And it was funny because yesterday, I think we all sent each other a video that was on TikTok of the top 10 protest dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking about that. It was really incredible. I don't know if we want to post that too,
Yeah,
but I
I
was
can
looking at
repost
it
that.
again this morning and I'm like, you know
That's
what I've
cool.
noticed is that most of those dogs are herding breeds.
Yeah.
And so think about it. That's or mixes, there are definitely mixes of most of them. So it all made sense if you look at their legs. They're with the protesters because these people were probably very kind to them. They probably fed them. They built up the social currency. And then the video focused on the dogs that would like bark at the police and the riot gear and go after the water cannons. But I could just see these dogs thinking, this is what we're doing today. We're going to take on those people that are shooting water at us and tear gas. Like, all right, let's go. They were fearless and they were right on the front lines. And it was really interesting to me when I realized, God, they're all herding dogs. Like,
Mhm.
of course they are. Of course they're thinking, all right, we're protesting today. And I'm going to help you guys because you guys are cool. Those guys look super scary, which is another thing that herding dogs are known for. If it looks weird, if it's in the wrong place, if it moves funny, they're going to react because, again, that was their job back in the day, to be aware of predators coming. So if you put up a flag in your backyard and then your cattle dog goes out there and freaks out because there's a flag, please don't yell at them. Please just say, "Oh yeah, we have a new flag and here, let's go look at the flag. It's just a flag. You're fine." But all of those things, they're hypersensitive to those. We have we have a chicken who is recovering from heat stress, so we're giving her time outside in the yard and she's in a separate pen, and our border collie, Hijinks, knows the chickens. She's fine. She loves to watch the chickens. Today, the chicken was on the wrong side of the yard and she lost her mind. She was like, "There's a chicken over there. There's a chicken over there. There's a chicken over there." I'm like, "Jason, it's just a chicken." Like, you're fine. You've seen the chicken. And she could not get over it because one chicken was over here when everybody else was over there. And then it was like, okay, so we'll look at it for a few seconds. Okay, bye, chicken. And we had to go inside and calm down. Like, thanks for letting us know the chicken was over there, and then she was fine. But you forget. You're like, oh yeah, that really mattered to her. That chicken is not supposed to be over there. That's dangerous. So it's funny. I love that about them, but it's just something to be prepared for. The out of the ordinary or anything that suddenly appears, it's a threat. That's wrong. Um, I think they have a long list of how life should be, how people coming into your house should be, how other dogs should be. So you've got to help them tick off the boxes on their checklist and be supportive and help them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hop in. I just had
Please
two
do.
things to say based on what you were saying that I when you were saying that things out of place or new things like a flag or just a new chair or like even the most basic things, if it's new, it can be scary and not right. And what is that? And your dog can freak out. And I feel like a lot of people might just be like, "Oh my god, you're being so dramatic, like, it's fine." But I feel like maybe we just wanted to mention you have, like, a really good strategy for Jinx, and, I mean, I even do it with my Chihuahua Obi, like, I feel like it works for all dogs, but a lot for herding dogs is, like, you're like, "Oh, just go touch it, just let's touch it," and then, by the dog obviously, at school, we teach the dogs, like, touch and targeting, so they kind of already know that cue, but if you just say, "Oh, let's go touch it," and then they touch it with their nose, they can see that it's not a threat and that it's fine, and then they're like, "Oh, okay," and I feel like that helps Jinx, and a lot of dogs just get over it way quicker, and I feel like it's so funny with Jinx because she knows that, like, she knows, like, "Oh, if there's something new that I'm kind of scared of, mom's gonna tell me to touch it." So, like, if there is something like, if there's, like, a tarp in the yard or, like, a new plant, we'll just see her go over and she'll just start poking it with her nose, like,
My little nose
investigating.
goes up like that.
Yeah, she's, like, pressing her nose, and it's so funny, but, like, it's such a good strategy because she just knows, like, "Oh, there's something new, like, I think I'm just gonna go touch it," and that's fine, and I feel like Clover, who's, like, the nervous Nelly, we didn't even really teach her that, but, like, she sees Jinx doing it, so, like, she'll kinda go up and just touch things too, and it's so funny,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's such a good strategy for specifically herding dogs, but I think any dogs, because Obi does that as well, like, if Obi's scared of anything, I'll be like, "Oh, let's just go touch it," and then he touches it and he's fine. So I just feel like that's
Yeah.
a really good management tool that people might benefit from. And then my second thing that I wanted to mention is you were mentioning social currency and how social currency is really important, specifically for herding dogs. But I didn't know if we just wanted to go a little bit more in depth on what is social currency, how do you build social currency, and like why is that important? Just because I don't know, it's a term that I wasn't really familiar with until the past couple years when I started looking into this stuff. So I didn't know if we wanted to just go a little bit more in depth about that.
Yes, let's, because it does pertain to all the breed groups. Um, but I definitely wanted to point it out with the herding dogs because it's so crucial for your relationship with them. Um, yeah. Elena, would you like to? You've been very quiet because we've been dominating the conversation.
No, that's okay.
Herding dog fangirls.
I've also been muting in between because Jude's having a fun
A
morning.
time.
Yeah. um, yeah. So, do you want me to just break down what social currency is?
Break it
Yeah.
Okay,
down.
I'll break it down. Start breakdancing.
No.
So, social currency is basically, well, I don't want to start off right with a metaphor, but it's what helps you build your trust between you and your dog. So it's kind of like the saying, like, you get what you put into any relationship, really. So, the more you are understanding of their needs, the more you listen to them, the more you take the time to figure them out as a being and show up for them, advocate for them, um, make sure that they have some freedom of choice. Basically, just, trying to treat them in a way that they trust you is
Yeah.
really the main thing. So I think it's Kim who describes it the way of like a bank where you don't put in, or you can't withdraw, a lot if you haven't put in enough,
Mhm.
basically enough social currency into the bank that is your relationship with your dog. Um, so yeah, that's what we were talking about when we say social currency. It's that, mm, it's, the not tangible things that you don't see in a relationship with you and your dog, that are
Yeah.
just there to build trust.
Yeah. I feel like it's basically like a fancy word for like relationship building and like trust building.
Yeah.
And yeah, like with
Mhm.
the whole bank metaphor, it's like yeah, you can't expect your dog to trust you and listen to you and I don't know if respect you is the right word, but have respect for you, that mutual respect if you don't put in the work and make yourself like I feel like Stephanie, you always say like make your and maybe Kim Brophy, maybe that's where you got it from Kim Brophy, but like make yourself somebody worth listening to. Like
Yeah.
if your dog like make make efforts to show your dog that you're trustworthy, you're on their side, you know what's
Mhm.
going on, you know what's best for them and then once you put in that work, then they'll know, "Oh, mom's got this covered. Oh, I trust mom. Oh, I'll listen to mom because she's on my side." Like, so I
Yeah.
think it's really
Yeah.
important.
It
It
is.
is. It is. And it also gives you, if you have that social currency, the time you do have to leash up your dog and move them away from a situation, you can do that and they understand you're not necessarily punishing them. I always like if I have to do that, I cannot get Jinx to let go of whatever she's freaking out about. I'll bring out the leash and it's like, I'm so sorry. I go, but this is for your safety. I go, we have to be safe. And she's not going to whip around and bite me because we trust each other. She trusts that I'm doing this for her greater good. And then we get inside, like, oh, you're such a good girl, and take the leash off. Like, thank you. We just have to stay safe. If there's something like a coyote out there, let's not keep barking at the coyote. I appreciate your alerting us. Now let's go inside. But that social currency gives you a lot of leeway when you have to do something that's potentially unpleasant for them. That trust is there. So they're not going to freak out on you. It's we have it with people, like you said, it's a human thing too. And think about like how much you trust your closest friends versus somebody you just met yesterday, because you don't have any social currency with them. There has to be that build up and equal deposits in the bank. So yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. And,
yeah,
also, like, with your relationship with your dog, I feel like it's like choosing your battles a lot too. Like, it's not like, "I'm gonna get the leash out every time and get you inside," or, "I'm gonna, like, pretend to throw a ball and not." Like, it
yeah,
seems like minor things when you're, in the moment, but that kinda stuff of, like, not really crying wolf, but, doing things like that repeatedly to where they're not able to trust you also doesn't contribute well to social currency either. I
Yeah,
don't know if
not
that
to
makes sense.
keep bringing up Kim Brophy, but she always says, like, "Don't lie to your dog."
yeah,
Yes, yeah.
Like, the
yeah,
thing
Mhm,
Elena was saying, like, if you're just always, like, pretending to throw the ball and then not, eventually your dog's gonna be like, "Man, like, what's the point?" Or, like, if you're, like, trying to get your dog to come inside because 'cause they're barking, you're like, "Oh, come in here and I'll give you a treat," and then they come inside
mhm.
and you just close the door and don't, then why are they gonna listen to you? They're
Yeah,
gonna
right.
eventually not listen to you because you're not following through.
'cause you're
You're
a
not
And,
liar.
like,
cooperating.
dogs aren't
You
stupid,
are
like, they
lying.
understand. Like, dogs aren't stupid, like, we don't give them enough credit a lot of the time, but, like, they get it, like, they're with the program, so don't lie to your dog, and that's part of building social currency.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't be a big stinky liar.
Basically, to sum it up.
I know. So I think we've given everybody a good introspective on herding dogs. I would really like to hear from any of our listeners who have herding dogs. I would love for you to drop us a note, like, what is your favorite thing about your herder? What are your biggest challenges? And when you brought them into your life, what was the biggest surprise you had? My whole business was created around the first herding dog, and I've had dogs my whole life, and I love them all. But when I adopted an 8-month-old corgi Sheltie, my life has never been the same. Because I've always had really easy dogs. Just you could lay on them and do whatever you wanted to. They never had a opinion about anything. And then Indy, he really had a mind of his own. So,
The
but I know
logo.
everything.
He's our
He's our
logo.
logo. Seriously, like he has made me the best dog parent ever, and I am greatly appreciative. And some people would have hated that guy. And now I have hijinks who on some level is probably a recreation of indie, but I that's why I like them because they make you a better person, kind of like Maren was saying. Like you just have that feeling like, yeah, yeah, I've got this. I understand this dog and this dog understands me. And it's just so powerful. But it makes you a better human with dogs because they're gonna call you on your shit. They really are. Um, I appreciate that.
Honestly, I feel like it makes you a better human in general because it's just a lesson on, like, relationship building, honestly, like, at the root
Okay,
cause of it,
gotcha.
like, I feel
Yeah.
like I am a lot more patient and trusting and just give
Look
and
at
take with, like, a lot of
their
human
side.
relationships because it's like, it's not all about me. It's a relationship, and, like, I don't know, you don't always think about that, but with herding dogs, you need to think about that, so then that just kind of, like, gets engraved in your brain.
Thank you,
That's so
Indy.
true.
Thank you, Indy, you've made me a
Thank
better, more kind and patient person.
Yelling at me in my doorway.
And we'll
Hi, Indy.
probably yeah, I'll post a video of Indy yelling at me in my doorway as well for this week. Make a little compilation of our herding dogs doing sassy things. We probably will. I think we talked about doing, like, a full episode or, like, half an episode on Indy down the line, or
Yeah,
Indy's story, and so, yeah, stay tuned for that.
yeah.
That would be
He was a
fun.
character. I miss him every day.
And just really quick, can we just go over some of the breeds that are herding dogs? Because I think some of the breeds, like corgis and stuff like that, people don't even realize
Realize.
were
Mhm.
originally bred to be herding dogs. So if you just wanna
I
go
haven't.
over a list of herding dogs, I think that could be good because I feel like some of them, like corgis, like German shepherds, like, I
Yeah.
don't necessarily correlate with herding dogs in my mind, and so I think people might be surprised by some of them.
Yeah, and shout out to the corgis who have become like the
Shout out to the corgis.
love you corgis. Andy was half corgi.
Shout out to all my
Um,
bears.
but yeah, they're cute and they're little and now they're like Instagram icons and they're in clothing and they're always called floofy butts. That's lovely. But also, those little suckers were bred to take down cattle. And so they are freaking tenacious and smart AF. So I just want to say, take corgis seriously, please, folks.
Yeah.
Um,
They're not just,
oh my God,
I
no.
won't get into it.
And they are cute and lovely and they can be so much fun, but they're herding dogs. Okay, so here is a list of just some of the herding dogs. We also have a website called Meet Your Dog Online, and there are many more listed there, and it goes into a little more of the characteristics of herding dogs. So we have your
We'll link
Australian
that.
cattle dog. What's that?
We'll link the website in the notes.
Oh, thank you. So the Australian cattle dogs, sometimes are referred to as blue heelers. You've got your red heelers, Australian kelpies, Australian shepherds, the bearded collie, the Beauceron, Belgian Groenendaal, Belgian Malinois, Belgian sheepdogs, Belgian Tervuren, the Burger Picard, my personal favorite, Border Collies, Briards, you've got your Canadian Welsh Corgi, German Shepherds, your Old English Sheepdogs, Pembroke Welsh Corgis, Polish Lowland Sheepdog, Poolies, Pumies, Pyrenean Sheepdogs, Shetland Sheepdogs. So the Shelties also are very cute. Um, you see a lot of them on Instagram too. They're serious. They're serious.
They mean business.
They do mean business. They're small but mighty. Standard collies and mixes. Um, we don't mean to not always mention the mixes, but if you've got anything that's mixed with any of these dogs, you can full on expect to see some herding dog behaviors. And if you guys will allow me, I would love to read Kim Brophy's. She's got this great thing she did where you'll fall in love with these particular dogs because you might find them hard to live with because, and what you might consult a trainer for because, and I think it's humorous, but it's legit. So you'll fall in love with your herding dog because she's a Robin to your Batman. They're ready to heed the call for any mission on the horizon. They will not rest as long as they're an adventure to be had. Check. True. Attentive. They're keenly aware of their environment as well as their partner's emotions and instructions. They're responsible. They're often type A. They keep their I's dotted and the T's crossed with rules, routines, work, and games. You might find a herding dog hard to live with because they're bossy. She's a regulator. They're here to establish law and order by managing the living room, the neighborhood, the park, and the natural universe. A workaholic. Their mental and physical ambition can make them overwhelming and exhausting at times, especially if you have a quiet indoor lifestyle. They're clingy. Their otherwise adorable person focus can be a little on the unhealthy side. And I can say, I usually have two cattle dogs in the bathroom with me at all times because you just never know what's going to go on in there and I might need their help.
Waffle is like glue to us.
Which it's something you love or hate or you just learn to deal with, but they got to be ready. All right, you might find yourself seeking professional help for chasing fast-moving objects like cars, bikes, skateboards, joggers, cats, and children. Controlling behavior toward other pets or family members, possibly manifesting as threats or aggression. We see a lot of this with cattle dogs, herding dogs who go to daycare. If there's a lot of chaos, they always feel like they have to manage or some control over that. So they don't often do well in those kind of settings. Dog parks as well. Sensory hypersensitivity, lights, shadows, sounds, and motions. They sometimes can be the fly snappers or the reflections on the wall.
Or you see those
Excessive
videos
barking.
of the Malinois in the car snapping at all the cars going past.
Oh, yeah.
Indy would do that too. Indy could not ride in the car if he could see out the window. Thank God he was short, so we could strap him in the seat. But he couldn't handle the movement. He
Oh.
did better riding in the car at night, and it took me way too long to figure that out. I feel terrible. I was not as smart when I first had Indy.
But you tried.
I tried. He taught me everything now. Excessive barking, very, very true. And again, that's the overstimulation, the desire to control, um, whether at events, environment, at people, at animals, rain. I mean, whatever just looks weird and looks like they need some management or they don't understand it. Nipping the feet or legs of people and animals. And that runs a whole gamut from literally chasing down kids and nipping at them, or not even just kids, but they're often the victims because they run crazy and they look like they need to be managed. Um, to what we refer to at our house as mouth hugs. Jinx is not super mouthy, even though she's mostly border collie, but she will, in a moment of excitement, come up and grip your arm, and she just doesn't put any pressure, and her tone kind of like gives you a little mouth hug if it's just her need.
She'll guide you around the house.
She will guide you around the house. And I had a friend who had a border collie named Meadow. Shout out to Meadow. She we worked in the same office together at the shelter, and you'd walk in and Meadow would come up and take your wrist and walk you over to the treat jar. I thought that was the most precious thing ever. I'm like, she's really smart. Um,
She's
I
like,
think
"Good morning, follow me.
I will take you this way.
Right this way, ma'am."
That was so cute. Protectiveness of territory and social members, very true. Threatening or aggressive behavior toward visitors. That could be a whole nother episode we hit on, but we do have protocol when people come to our house because they are intruders. And Jinx has her checklist and she has to make sure you're cleared for security before you come too far in our house. And I like that. I like that. Hyperactivity, agitation, or restless behavior. Overexcitement, threatening or aggressive appearing displays toward other animals, people, bikes, cars, etc. And you sometimes can see neurotic, repetitive, and obsessive behaviors, OCD, spinning, tail chasing, retrieving, circling, and barking.
So there you
Shout
go.
out to OCD.
Shout out to OCD. I know it all too well. Maybe that's why I get along with the herding dogs so much.
I know, I feel
Like,
like
I
Like,
feel
I
your
understand
pain.
you.
I feel your anxiety. Our anxieties have meshed.
I got you, buddy.
Yeah, totally get that.
All right. So while I think herding dogs are the most lovely of all the breed groups, I'm just gonna say it. They're tough. I think you need to be dog savvy. You have to have a good sense of humor. You have to be willing to accept that you're not gonna be the pack leader. You're not gonna be the boss of the house. You definitely want to have confident presence with them so they feel safe and supported, but you are a team. That's the takeaway living with the herdy dog. They're sensitive, they want to be with you, and you are a team.
You
I
are
think that was
one.
a pretty comprehensive look at herding dogs.
There's a lot to say about those
There
guys.
is always a lot to say about them.
They're very complicated. And you look at how, oh my gosh, like the breeding is ridiculous. How specific they could get, how hard of a bite each different type of herding dog was bred to have. It's crazy. I
Yeah.
hate to think of all the fails that happened back in the day, but maybe
Yeah.
they maybe
We won't go into that.
we will. We'll just
Moving on. World dogs. Take it away, Elena.
All right. Well, Going back to that video that we were talking about of those protest dogs, I also noticed it was interesting because I think a lot of those dogs were street dogs, which is what world dogs are. Um, so yeah, I thought that was cool because, well, street dogs are just cool in general, honestly. Um, I'll start off with their genetics. They really they weren't bred for anything. They weren't bred at all, which is great. Like we love a a natural progression of a dog. So they had no specific intention for their breeding. They weren't influenced by people. They have because they were, just out in the world. They had the option to breed with whoever they wanted. They had that choice and autonomy. So they are, as Kim Brophy has described their dogs by nature's design. They make up 80% of the world's population, which is really cool. And they are all over the world, um, hence world dog. um, but yeah, they have a lot of characteristics that you would see in an animal that's just surviving, basically. They're not a pet. They're out in the world, and they will scavenge. That's often their main priority, because they're so focused on survival. Their temperament is often pretty good because they aren't going to go into an altercation with another dog if it's not worth it. Um, so their temperaments are normally good. They, also are going to be um, more not as fearful as like a herding dog or another dog around people because that's oftentimes their meal ticket is getting scraps from people. So they seem pretty well tempered, well mannered. um they obviously are not pets in a home, but they might hang around the same area, um to get food from that area because they know it's a good resource. But they're not really part of anyone's family. They just kind of hang out like those protest dogs. They found their little tribe of people and just kind of hung out. They yeah, so they're just dogs of the public, basically. They just kind of scavenge around, get handouts here and there. They are really resourceful when it comes to getting food. They're resourceful when it comes to knowing how to navigate, like in traffic. They can cross the street just fine. It's not we've seen videos of like Kim put in a video at the end of the course, showing street dogs, and it's nerve wracking to watch them like try to cross the street. And I'm sure accidents do happen, but they're really good at knowing their environment and not needing human help, which is really cool because I think sometimes people are like, oh, dogs need our help, they're just little babies. But world dogs really prove that they don't really need us as much as we think they do. Um, but yeah, they're really good at hazard avoidance out in the world. They they're pretty enriched, I would say, in their lives already because they do have autonomy. They get to, engage in those natural behaviors of digging, foraging, sniffing, um, and all of those. So I feel like this might be controversial, but I don't really think it's a good idea. Like if you go to a different country and you bring a street dog home with you, it's often not really gonna work out as well as you think because that dog, even if it seems sad to you, they're having, like, not the time of their life, but, I mean, they're living, um, they're getting to engage in the behaviors that a normal dog would want to. They have the autonomy to go wherever they want. They can, choose who they see, where they go. So I feel like, when people decide to take them home and take them out of that, that's where, the problems can really um, come for them as pets because they're not really pets. They're like little wild animals in dogs' clothes. Maren.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
gotta
just
get
like
used to
along that, like I feel like a lot of the times people will go to on vacation just somewhere and they'll see these street dogs and it's like they'll be like, "Oh, this dog has been following me around my whole vacation and it's just so sad. Like they're a stray. Like I need to take them home." And it's just a bit of a savior complex, I think, because really
Yeah.
we're putting all this like, yes, the dog doesn't have a home. Yes, in the natural world, they might get sick, they might have matted fur, they might die prematurely because that's the way things are in the natural world. But I feel like we're putting our human emotion of like sadness and pity onto these dogs when in reality, like, they don't need your help. Like, yeah, they love some of your scraps, but like
Mhm.
they're fine. Like they don't need you to like bring them home and, like, give them a nice bed, like, I think they're perfect like, there is obviously a line, like, if a dog is street dogs are so controversial for me, and, like, I feel like
Oh,
my
yeah.
opinion has changed so much on them the
Mhm.
past couple of years, like, as we've been learning more about the different groups, because I feel like I used to be the same, like, if I were to travel outside of the States and see a dog on the street, like, following someone begging for food, I'd be like, "Oh my god, that's so heartbreaking." But now, like, we'll go to Mexico, and there's so many street dogs in Mexico wandering around, and I'm like, "That is so cool," and I would never dream of getting one in my car and taking it home with me because, like, that's their life, like, that's their livelihood, and it's just I don't know, it's just such a we'll probably do, like, like, a whole episode on street dogs, but
Yeah.
it's just I feel like a lot of the times when people like you were saying, like, people feel bad for them and wanna take them home, and it doesn't end up working well, it's just a bit of a savior complex, and we don't need that.
It is because they don't know
See.
what a home is. They've never had that. They don't even know what that is. So they're not missing it if they don't know. And I think if they're, obviously if they're injured or sick and, then yeah, like intervene. But I think if they're
But
thriving and
also
doing okay.
natural selection.
Also natural select true, and they're so resilient because they have been able to go through natural selection on their own, which is amazing because we don't let dogs do that now. The ones that are bred for specific things and as pets, they don't have that luxury of going through natural selection. Sorry, go ahead. I see your little hand.
No, I just didn't want to forget. When you bring up points, I'm like, oh yeah. Um, yeah, world dogs are hard for me too because when I was younger, the first time I went to Mexico and I saw all these dogs, I was crying. I'm like, oh my god, I want to take that home. I want to take that home. I want to take them home. And I won't say they can't live in a home. I know people that have world dogs, but it takes such I hate to use the word special. It takes a very unique person who can have a world dog in their home and make it successful for them because you really have to understand they might never want to live in your house and sleep on your bed and want all your love, and they might at some point. But you have to be prepared for what life with them look like. And I know somebody who has a couple, and for years, they just let the dogs be outside And at least that was respectful. They put food out there, but they didn't have any kind of intention of having the dogs come in and eat with them and all that social pressure that they're unfamiliar with. And so I would say that she's done things right. But to grab a dog off the street would be like being abducted and taken to Mars. It's like, what? Like I'm not comfortable with this. I don't know this. And I also want to mention, like when you were talking about their temperaments are so even, it's really interesting too, because now that we go to Mexico quite often, and I really am like searching for dogs now, where I used to like look away, like I can't watch them. And now I'm like filming as we go down the streets, like, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one. It's ridiculous. But it's amazing to me. I have never seen dogs fighting. They rarely bark. And there are people everywhere. There's cars, there's other dogs, there's cats, vendors with all kinds of crazy things. I've never seen anybody bark reactively because they're just exposed to it and they're used to it. And it really gives you an appreciation for how hard it must be for our dogs who live in captivity, who don't get exposed to all these things on the regular. It's pretty wild. So while we were talking about how cool it is to befriend a herding dog, it's also really cool to know world dogs, and it gives you a whole nother insight into what dogs really are. Um, so I just wanted to throw that out. Like if you are somebody who has a world dog or contemplating, you go down to Mexico and there's a rescue down there that takes in the dogs from the street, and I'm really in conflict about that. I think they tend to do a lot of puppies, which maybe I'm more okay with because if they haven't grown up on the street. But I still think that people who adopt those dogs have to be counseled really, really well, because even if they're 8 weeks old and they haven't had to survive on the street, dogs still inherit characteristics from their mother and grandmother, studies are now showing. So if your mom and your grandma have certain characteristics after living on the streets and fending for themselves and avoiding traffic and all this kind of stuff, your puppy might not be like the average buddy up lab kind of thing. So I just hope that they counsel really well when people adopt from that shelter. Um,
That's a
but
good
it's
point.
really interesting to me how they do tend to get along well with dogs because they have to, like you mentioned, like you don't see altercations. Um, it would be not smart to start a fight and potentially either get hurt or die. So
Mhm.
it's really interesting how their behaviors are so different. um,
Mhm.
and having that freedom of choice, I think they are enriched in that sense. They don't have to wait for someone to let them out to go potty and tell them when to eat, and um, they're like a life is to be lived kind of dog. It's really interesting.
They really
So
are.
so that's all. I'll put my hand down now.
I
We're
just have
experimenting with
something.
hand raising.
Yeah, we just discovered the hand raise feature, so we don't have to just barge in and interrupt each other the whole
Let us
episode.
know if you hate it or if you
Yeah,
like
comment
it.
down below. I'm probably gonna keep doing it, but
Kind of fun.
um so yeah, I going off how you were saying the rescue takes in a lot of puppies, and I feel a bit conflicted about that as well, because we have a rescue in Phoenix. Well, I think a plenty of rescues in Phoenix take a lot of puppies and dogs off the reservation. And this is kind of going off topic for world dogs, but on topic just for that. A lot of them are herding dogs, but they're just taken off the reservation just because they're puppies and they're there and people think that they deserve a better life. But who are we to judge what their better life is? And, we're taking them away from their mom. And it's just, that puts me in a lot of conflict, like just taking puppies from this. Like, if it's a sick puppy, once again, you could argue for natural selection, like just leave it be, because
Yeah.
then obviously that puppy wasn't healthy enough to reproduce and start a new generation. But I can understand if you go and you see a sick puppy, to take it in, heal it, and then put it in a home, because that's just who we are as humans. But just going to the reservation and seeing a litter of puppies and their mom is off probably looking for food and just scooping them up and taking them home. I just feel like there's a bit of a ethical
Yeah.
debate
Mm.
about that. And I don't know, that just made me think of that. And we don't have to go into it too much, but maybe it's just a question that we should raise. What do you think about it? Leave your leave your opinions down below.
Consider. And I think you could almost consider res dogs world dogs because they're not
Yeah, that's what I
intentionally
would think.
bred.
Like, yes,
Yeah.
they are more visibly certain breeds, but they're living free and like they're I don't know, it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of that walking the line between the different groups and stuff.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
I think the
culture thing. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
No,
I'm
no,
so
you're
sorry.
fine. Oh, I was gonna say, I think the certain breed thing is geographical too. Like here in Arizona, it's you're either mixed with Chihuahua or Pit Bull. So I feel like,
Or cattle
it's
dog
cool.
nowadays, I feel like.
Or cattle dog, true, yeah. So I feel like world dogs are cool because it's geographical, like what they're mixed with,
Yeah.
but they all have the same common goal of they're not bred for anything specific, but just to survive, which is really cool. They're not bred at all, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that is really cool. The reservation point is a good one because I feel like there is like where do we draw the line of helping them and but like helping them in a way that actually helps them and isn't just like culture shocking them.
Yeah,
Um,
do they really need us to intervene, or do we just feel the need to intervene because
yeah,
that's what humans do? They
yeah,
put their foot in everything.
yeah, yeah,
It's a
exactly.
tough question. I don't know that there's a right answer, but it's just one of those consider things. And it's hard too because our shelters right now, here we're going to go off to a PSA, but our shelters are like overflowing. They always are. And now we've got all these dogs coming in all over the United States, at least from all the people that have been deported. So we're drowning in dogs. And then to look for more to bring in, um,
It's not fair to the
it's such a
dogs.
No.
You're
it's a
taking them
sticky
away
situation.
from their family, their life,
But
and
they
then you're putting them in a rescue, in a shelter, hoping that they'll be adopted into a good home to give them a good life. Many times they aren't adopted, many times they aren't adopted into a quote unquote good home. So it's just yeah, it's just one of those things like really consider like are you doing this for the dog or are you doing it to feel good about yourself?
Yeah, and I think there are ways to help too, where you're not like totally disrupting what they have going on. I have a coworker from a past vet clinic that I worked at. She is native and she um works with this organization where they go to reservations and they just spay and neuter and then they release them again, like a catch and release program for the res, which I think is great because we're not letting the population get like super out of hand, but we're also not just like ripping those dogs from their environment either. We're letting them do whatever. I mean, they aren't able to reproduce after that, but if that certain area is having a problem with that and the people are having a problem with that, I mean, she's native, she's would know, so I feel like
yeah.
if you are a person who is affected by that and actually knows what's going on in that region, then, like, go for it, because I feel like a lot of people who are visiting, they don't know. They don't know, the daily life of these people or what their struggles are, but they think they know.
Mhm.
That's a whole other thing, but sorry.
Yeah. That just reminded me
That's our
though
human.
that just reminded me though with the catch and release thing that you said that your friend was kind of doing. It's like, I don't know, it kind of just reminded me there of like feral cats because
Mhm,
it's like there are feral cats everywhere. And I feel like the most people will do with feral cats is they will do the catch and release spay and neuter and then
mhm.
put them back. And
Yeah,
like you don't hear about people capturing these feral kittens and bringing them to an animal shelter to give them a better life and get them adopted out. Like for the most part, people leave feral cats be. Like they might leave food out in their backyard for them, but like they pretty much just let them be feral. So it's
that's
like
true.
why are we okay with that? But then like dogs, we're like, oh, we need to help them. We need to bring them in. It's I just thought of that and I've never really thought about that until you were saying how they do the catch and release. Um, so it's just
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've said that before, though, about dogs. Like, why do we treat them so differently? Like, we don't recognize that they're captive animals. Somewhere, I don't know if I've heard people blame it on Disney because Disney started like cartoonizing dogs and giving them all these human personalities. I don't know, but there is something about them. We just don't take them
Yeah.
seriously sometimes,
Yeah, it's like we don't think they're capable of taking care of themselves.
Yeah,
But then at the
they
same
are.
time, if we're not giving them proper care and outlets, then we're like, why can't you just figure it out yourself? It's just a bit of
So
a
true.
like it's just a bit of a I don't know, a
We're like, "Oh,
conundrum.
there's a baby on the street," and then we're like, "Stop being a baby. It's just a firework. It's
Yeah,
just
if I'm gonna take you into
fire
my
in the
house, you better act
sky."
like a grown up.
no,
Get your
no.
stuff
We went through
together.
this last year, remember?
God, it's the 4th of July. Hello.
Celebrating the country.
Yeah.
I
I feel
know,
like we're
it's
getting a bit
crazy.
off topic, but I think it all kind of
We are.
ties back to world dogs and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and I did wanna go over, some of the, the things that people love about them, the things that people, find challenging if you do decide to take one home. This is also based off of Kim Brophy's little, worksheet or, paper that she had outlined for each of the breed groups. So some of the things that they're really good at, they're really adaptive to change, obviously, because they have to be. They, go with the flow. They do well in a lot of different environments. Obviously, similar to what they know, but they're very observant, self-sufficient. They're pretty low maintenance. They're, like we said, they have a pretty good temperament. Um, they are, just all around well-rounded, adjusted to whatever life throws at them. Um, some of the things that might be hard for someone to live with them, since they are used to, foraging and scavenging for food, they might, find your trash can appealing because that's what they're used to, or counter surfing, um, or even eating their own poop. I feel like people are like, "Oh, that's gross," but if they're just trying to survive, that might be an option for them. Um, they are really good at, like herding dogs, reading us because they have to
Mhm.
survive. It's not like, the same as like a relationship where you're working together for a job, but they're doing it for their own benefit of being able to survive, alongside of us. They don't have any particular job. Um, so that yeah, their goal is just to survive. They um you might need guidance with them, living in your home due to them, going to the bathroom in the house. Obviously, most of them probably are not house trained right off the bat. Um, so that would probably be something that you would have to address right away. Chewing on things that they shouldn't. Again, they're not really going to know what is fair game and what's not. Getting on the furniture if you're someone who doesn't like your dogs or animals on the furniture, they might not get that memo. Barking barking at neighborhood cats, or any other wildlife. um Counter surfing, obviously we said that. Jumping on people, pulling on the leash. They might have trouble walking on leash if they're not used to doing that. They're used to going wherever they want. Um, Not following directions, having trouble adapting to pet life in general. and not having access to the outside, which I did want to mention um, that one client we had, the dog, I don't remember her name, but she was living with a homeless person or houseless
Mm.
person, and she had been rescued and put into a new home, and she was having a hard time adapting. And she was even having a hard time adapting at school when we had that was at the warehouse. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think her name was, I wanna say Daisy, but I don't know if it was Daisy.
I
Daisy,
think
yeah.
that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, and she just had a hard time with barriers, especially. We had
Yeah.
sections set up for our classrooms, and she would just leap over those, and just had a hard time being confined. But she was, it, a street dog basically. So um, it was just interesting to see her try to integrate into like a life of being a pet.
Mhm. She was super friendly. She loved
She
all
was
the
so
dogs,
friendly. Hmm.
great with people, super smart, but yeah, the confinement just killed her.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was yeah, she just reminded me of that because that's I feel like a common issue with them is the confinement for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Well, we had a lot to say about herding dogs and a lot to say about world dogs, and we were gonna do toy dogs this episode as well, but we have a lot to say about toy dogs because, as you might have noticed, that's my breed. And so we're just gonna save toy dogs for next episode so we can really get into it and not make this episode hours and hours long. So we'll just leave it at that for today.
Yeah, and thanks for hanging out with us on What Dogs Really Want. If you like this episode, hit that follow button, leave a review or a comment at What Dogs Want, and share with someone whose dog might be trying to tell them something. If you have a myth you want busted or a behavior you're curious about, go ahead and drop us a DM. You can find us on Instagram at What Dogs Want, or you can leave us a voice memo as well. We'll try to cover it on a future episode. Until next time, stay kind and curious and do fun stuff with your dog.
Bye.
Yay.
Yay!